So with Ghost of Tsushima right around the corner and still relatively little known about how we'll experience the game as gamers, I thought it was worth doing a video on some answers that Nate Fox gave in an interview with PressStart.com about very similar questions. Before we get too far into it, I appreciate a like on the video, it helps us out a lot, and subscribe if you're interested in more Ghost content, because that's what I'm going to be putting out. Now, Nate was asked, how's the game broken up in terms of exploration versus combat? His answer was a little bit cryptic. It seems that it boils down into three options. One, we can engage in the narrative content, right? That's speaking to villagers, helping them out with their problems, getting probably fetch quests, that sort of thing. Engaging with the Mongol encampments seem to be separate to that, so whether or not those are single encampments, i.e. once you defeat them they despawn, or whether or not they just stay there and respawn is something we'll have to find out in the game, and likely the way that you go about attacking them, whether as the samurai Jin or the ghost, may affect the local area. The last thing he said was that we could explore. Now, exploration in this game seems to be rather interesting because there are no waypoints and obvious signs of things. We're left to spot the unusual things in the environment, whether those are unusual looking trees, burned down buildings, or animals trying to get our attention. And on that note, Nate was asked, will there be other animals that lead us to hideouts? It seems that while there are multiple animals to follow, birds and foxes for example, that there are also animals that aren't always on your side. So there are bears on this island for example, and they'll likely attack you. It's also likely that they'll take us towards different things, so that the large predatory animals may well have already had an engagement with one of the Mongols, and we may find some items there. Whether that's weapons, money, or useful equipment is left for us to find out in the game. The one really interesting thing that he said, especially about the predators, was that the game's a dynamic simulation, so they don't really dictate where the animals go. That means that it's our own choices and where and how we interact with the environment that will dictate whether or not we even find these animals and how they react towards us. On the story, and to do with engaging with the narrative content, he was asked, how linear can we expect it to be? Is it mostly going from point A to point B, or can we tackle things in whatever order we choose? Now, Nate gave a very interesting answer towards this question, which was that yes, we can choose which way we interact with the narrative and take different directions, similar to the way people played The Witcher. But he said something very interesting about the transformation of Jin from samurai to the ghost, which was, he gave this example of the trunk of a tree, where the decisions and character choices and the people you meet and the quests that you deliver affect the way in which it develops the branches of the tree, which is a very interesting way to view the game. And it also means that people's experiences of the leveling system, how Jin develops and what tools and equipment, what specs we can spec into, are likely to be very different. He was also asked about how early in development they decided to not use waypoints and what are the decisions that they're going to make creatively to help the gamers stay engaged. Now, he started out by saying that their number one priority was to excite a sense of curiosity and always reward players for exploring and finding things in Tsushima. This isn't just the animals that we saw in the 18-minute gameplay reveal, this isn't just birds and foxes to follow. They have specifically tried to make it so that if you get lost in the game, that the exploration is rewarding. Now, it could be simple things like looking at the landscape that you find yourself in. Is there an unusual looking river coming down the hills? Do the hills look weird? Do you find a cave? Where does that river that comes down the hill lead to? If it leads into a pond, what's in the pond? It seems like their number one priority was making getting lost in the world a fun experience, rewarding curiosity, rewarding the people that go looking and searching around and using their ingenuity to find and solve the puzzles, but also to make the world feel magical and alive. These are the sorts of things that make these worlds more engaging, finding something that you weren't expecting. On that note, I suspect that the quest log is going to look relatively unusual. Because there are no waypoints, we won't get the regular quest that says Akira has asked you to go to location A and solve problem B. It will probably come in the form of minor stories or potentially letters written to you. For example, Akira from the Temple of Buddha has told you, Jin, that bandits are attacking deliveries coming south along the northern road, and it leaves it up to us to realize that we need to go north up along the northern road and find where the bandits are. There'll probably be something blocking the road or a path leading off of it that will take us towards the bandits. I also suspect we'll get a lot of quests in the form of found letters or items with cryptic messages on them. For example, we might find letters on bodies or in abandoned buildings saying that a cache has been left somewhere, that the item's been left in an abandoned village, in the building with no roof, or behind the red barn, or with a cryptic explanation or poem, for example, saying something like, I'll just make this up off the top of my head, may your wealth grow like a seed, indicating that the item was buried in the garden behind the building. leaving it up to us to realize that this bunch of flowers has been disturbed, or that this patch of grass has a muddy patch in it, indicating that it was probably dug up, and then we find the item. All of this to say that the game is going to make us have to think about whatever quests or storylines we're going on. And the really interesting thing is I did a video about the difficulty. Some news came out about the difficulty for Ghost of Tsushima, and people were complaining that it seems that the game will likely be quite hard. Bizarrely, people don't seem to be bothered by the fact that the exploration will be more difficult. There won't be waypoints, it'll be left up to our ingenuity to find out and solve the problems that we need to get where we're going, but people are upset when it comes to the similar challenge in the combat. Now I'll link that video at the end so that you can take a look at it and tell me if you think these things are similar. I'm struggling to see why people are interested in this new concept but hesitant when it comes to the difficulty of the game, and I'd love to know what you think in the comments if these things are even relevant. But in my opinion, they're both ways that the game is trying to challenge us. Now, I agree, I don't want to die 15 times in any minor engagement, but I like the idea of having to think and problem solve when it comes to finding the locations that I'm going to. So it makes me wonder why people are less excited about the difficulty for combat and more excited about this, because when it comes to this kind of problem solving, it's more likely that people will be better at defeating a difficult game than finding stuff without being given the locations. Let me know what you think in the comments. Seriously, I'd love to hear what you have to say about whether or not this is a good idea. If you think this way of laying out missions with no waypoints, being guided by the wind and having to follow animals and find the broken trees or the burnt out buildings, if that is actually a good way to do this. Do you think it will be an efficient way to do this game, or are we likely to see a patch that brings in waypoints, or is it a game killer? I would really love to know what you think. Let me know and I'll catch you guys in the next one.